Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of 3 Live Canes here. This right here, it says Chris. That over there says Bill. Down there is going to be a guy named Steve-O here in a little bit. Welcome to the Jeremiah Smith postgame show, or whatever you want to call it. But heck of a playoff second round of 15 rounds so far. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about the Pop-Tart Bowl, but more importantly, a lot about Cam Ward and all the idiots. I had to get some comments in there about Cam over the course of the past week, which I have some very strong opinions about. But obviously, that's a whole bunch of other stuff that has to come after we give the pleasantries back and forth. So, Bill, how you doing?
I'm all right. Happy New Year's, everyone, which should be a great start to the new year. Got rid of our DC, but I don't know. Things are maybe not so sunshine and rainbows around this program right now, but we'll I'm sure we'll get into all that. But I was hoping we could enter this off season with some positivity, but I am going to be full on negative mode for the next 7 months or so.
I mean, we need a lot, but hey, can we at least have a little, there'll be some negativity coming, of course, but can we at least be positive about the fact that Lance Guidry is gone? Can we have some sunshine and rainbows about that? Because that's a net positive. We could literally listen to Brian, hire you, Bill. I mean, at the very least, we know you'll try to do the job.
Yeah, I'm dressed for it now, so I already got that part down.
Yeah, so I mean,
could it get any worse?
Yeah, 5 rings. Jeremiah Smith, program changing miss. I mean, he was going to go where he wanted to go. Like, no one was going to convince Jeremiah Smith to go where he didn't want to go. He made a choice.
Yeah. While we're on it, can anybody blame him for what he chose? He's like the all-time freshman receiver for Ohio State. He's playing, or probably going to be playing for a national championship. He's that guy at Ohio State as a true freshman.
Yeah,
he would not have been in the semifinals if he had come to Miami. He probably wouldn't even been in the playoffs because we couldn't stop anybody.
Hell, I mean, I assume at some point he could just went out there on defense and just started lighting people up. See if Kane did the list of South Florida players that got away. I don't know if we have the space in our computers to set that list up. There's a lot, man, a lot. Jeremiah Smith is a front running stat padding. I mean, why? Because he didn't go play for Miami? Come on. He's the best freshman receiver in multiple decades. And he's done and he's exactly where he should be. No offense to Miami, but he's doing a hell of a lot of good stuff. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff we could talk about, a lot of things that we need to discuss here. Lance Guidry obviously being the top of the list. The reaction to Cam, that's a whole other piece of the puzzle we'll have to get into as well. People saying, who are these guys? Borgia, who are these fellas? I don't know. The same guy's been doing a show every Wednesday night for 5 years. 5 years. Doing it for a while. You know, we started CanesInSight Live, those guys. But anyway, nice to meet you, Borgia. Where's D-Money and Pete? Probably doing other stuff, enjoying their time with their families here on New Year's. Doing their show. They do shows like every single day. Like they're around. Don't worry. They'll be back. A lot of stuff to talk about. I'm not going to mess around with the intros here too much longer. Our guy, Steve, will be here soon enough. But obviously, hate to have you guys falling away from the intro. We have a lot of new stuff here on StreamYard. It's looking pretty nice. So going through it. But anyway, for all that stuff, here's the intro. Thank you guys for tuning in to 3 Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Irvin's got it. Irvin's free.
Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, but he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big games.
Hard dog. Don't ask me for more. Hell no. Devin Hester up to the races. That's what they needed.
That's Ricks going up for Thorpe, and it's intercepted near midfield. Sean Taylor's got another one.
Who else?
So the big news over this past couple of days has been Lance Guidry's firing as Miami Hurricane defensive coordinator, a move that a lot of people were hoping for, but not many people thought would come, especially as quickly as it did. There was legitimate concern, I think, among the fan base that we were going to keep it rolling for another year, that give him a chance to turn it around, especially with as a lot of our rivals have thrown it as a criticism, the tendency for Mario to turn over a new page on these coordinators pretty quickly. So like maybe they won't fire and get another one, have the third and the fourth year, maybe give him a second year and all that. But at the end of the day, we all saw where that defense was heading, and the fact that not a single change was made from the middle of the season, like to early, maybe third of the season, a consistent failure of process and placement of players led to what had to be done. And I think the entirety of the fan base celebrated when we saw the news. Bill, I won't go in the whole thing about where were you when it happened and how did you celebrate, but just your initial thoughts, the idea that Lance Guidry was sent away from his post in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, going into the bowl game, I actually thought there was like a small percentage that he might make it if they had a decent performance, like you can sell it, whatever. But we were in game 13, and guys were still pointing and like looking confused on defense. Like I don't know what went wrong, because it didn't look like that the last year, right? We took some pretty impressive strides. I know he switched to like a 3-3-5 mid-year, and we celebrated that, but the wheels had completely come off, and it's essentially that this defense wasted a generational quarterback for us, and I think that's what hurts the most. I do have to give Mario props for doing it as timely as he did. After the bowl game, we probably have like 2 or 3 weeks before like we hear anything, because that's just kind of been the MO. But he made the move. Excuse me, and we'll see who comes in. There's a lot of big names out there.
That's the positive of it, right? Like we are looking at a coach that isn't afraid to go out there and talk to some of these big names. I know I saw some people questioning whether he would bring in another like alpha type guy, considering that's his forte. I mean, he learned a lot from Nick Saban's process for bringing in coaches, with the idea of rehabbing them and letting them hit their stride again before they head on their way. And the key of that is not being afraid to bring other guys with the long resumes and their own processes for things into the fold to let them do their thing. Now, will he follow through with it? I'm not sure. What will the timeline be? I have no idea. Vito says, I hope he can get the DC done quickly. I hope so too. I really hope so too, because we've seen that go the total opposite direction in past years.
I think the good news with that is you've already heard reporters have already said, we reached out to Tyler Santucci from Georgia Tech, Banks from Tennessee's kind of been thrown out there on Twitter from reporters. So it sounds like at least the process has started. So I guess that's positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need it to be, especially when we're talking about, not that. We saw before, portal has to be a big thing, and portal's always going to be a big thing. I do think there's a lot of guys with talent on the roster right now that we need to see developed and put into a better position. So you really want to make sure these guys have some idea of what the defense is going to be before we're even close to spring. If we wait months to make this call, yes, it will hurt us bringing in portal players, absolutely, but it'll also hurt us with the opportunity to get some of these young guys in tune with what we need from them by the time we make it there. Because what if we have a total adjustment of what we want to do with some of our tweener guys, right? Like maybe we want to have some of those guys put on some weight and play more of like a true end position. Maybe we want to have some guys lighten up a bit so they can actually play on the edge and not be true defensive tackles out there and running cover 3. Like maybe there's some things that we can do to adjust this thing. So a couple comments in there too about the new DC will want to bring in his coaches, new DC trying to bring in his players. There's obviously 2 in there, but the only defensive coach that I think might be to some level untouchable would be Jason Taylor, because I number one, I think that he's a home run hitter when it comes to bringing in some of these edge players. I think people respond to Jason Taylor in a way that it's hard to get them to respond to, Bob Shipman, who's been a great defensive end coach or whatever for years at all these different D1 schools. Jason Taylor just kind of hits different when he walks into the room. But at the same time, Jason Taylor is also really passionate about being here in a way that I think will be positive, and I don't think you want to lose that, being a guy who starred with the Dolphins. Big Joe obviously is a question mark there, considering his history with Mario. I don't know how that will go. And if you keep Big Joe, I don't know how the new guy would like the idea of not having a single defensive line coach there. So I'm not sure the moves that we'd want to make, how many voices you want in that room, the idea of the lack of limits on coaches, but you still got to have guys that are in charge. So Not sure exactly what the moves you make there. What are your thoughts, Bill?
I'm of the belief you hire a DC and you let him make whatever changes, he seems fit. I think the only coach probably on the entire staff that I think is untouchable would be Mirabal, right? Him and Chris Ball essentially attached at the hip. He's doing his job great. But yeah, I think we need to kind of get away from, Mario picking, the position coaches and just trying to make it fit with the coordinators. Just let the coordinators do what they do, because they, it's not like Mario is an offensive guy or a defensive guy and it's like his scheme, his system, and it's continuous. It's based on whoever he brings in, right? So, maybe, whatever coach, specifically, but like, hey, if we're running this specific scheme, maybe that doesn't fit what they do, even though they may be like a decent coach or a good recruiter. Jason Taylor's been doing very well on the recruiting trail. I thought, the entire defense was not good this year. So yes, he's done his job recruiting, a lot of blue chippers. But again, we haven't gotten blue chip production, right? Especially this year. So whether it's, Santucci or Tim Banks, or saw Mel Tucker's being named thrown out there. You let them, evaluate, bring in their guys. Because I think that's the only way we're actually going to get this fixed for more than just like a season. You need to kind of let these guys do what they do, provide some continuity, scheme fit, whatever. Same thing on offense, right? At some point, Dawson's going to probably get a head coaching job or leave on his own, whatever. There's going to be turnover at some point. Again, you bring in a new coordinator, let him pick his guys, minus Mirabal. Mirabal stays no matter what.
Yeah. That's like, is there a guy there like that, number 100% he's going to be in? Keep it away from HR. That would be an important part of the process for sure. 5 ranks that new DC to bring his own guys, communications, important defense. Everyone's be on the same page, which obviously was not happening this year. Number one issue with the fact that our safeties coach and our biggest was our defensive coordinator, and our biggest issue was the play and understanding and communication of our safeties. So a lot of these things happening over the course of time to get figured out. Now, with all of this, they talk about the development of the players, which is just as much of an issue that we saw. And if we were to be critical of Guidry, the recruiting, a lot of people had negative things to say about him as a recruiter. Yeah, he whipped on some of the top tier safety targets that we had pretty much like said, oh, these are our guys. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days before signing day, oh, no, we're not going to get that guy. The guy that we had already like basically said guaranteed he's going to be a starter for the next 3 years. He's out before we got on campus. Not a great sign, right? Then on top of that, lack of positional understanding, it seemed, with the defense, where guys just didn't know where they should be, lack of communication, lack of order. I think my biggest issue was a lack of development, where you had these blue chipper guys, these guys that we had brought in as the elite talent, the guys that Mario had built programs on in the past. All of a sudden now, like, you go look at an Oregon when he had their guys that were able to play early, then play consistently. Now, all of a sudden, his defense, we had all these 5-star guys, and the only time we saw Marquise Lightfoot was during the bowl game get into a fight, right? The only time we saw Justin Scott was breaking up that fight and then getting a couple snaps here at the end of games. Like, these are the guys that other schools would have on the field ready to roll, ready to play against much better opponents than we played towards the end of our season that we struggled against mightily. But we're rolling the same dudes out there who aren't getting the job done, and we're expecting everyone on the bench to be happy about it. Like, was I upset seeing players punching each other on the sidelines? Not really. I mean, not really. Like, where did that start from? It probably started from, hey, guy who's in there playing like garbage, I should be playing over you. And the guy saying, like, sit down on the bench, scrub guy. And then he gets up, says, you're playing like a scrub. And then if that's what starts it, not the end of the world, because the players are seeing what we're seeing, and they're frustrated by the fact that the guys that are the ones that maybe make a little bit more money, guys that are on the field aren't getting the job done. So
yeah, I mean, on paper, right, this job should be very attractive to defensive coordinators, right? You have blue chip talent throughout. You have some 5-stars sprinkled in. You should have a pretty formidable safety duo, right, with the ZPs. Saquon got some time, right? We have Poiser and, you have Justin Scott who's a 5-star, you have linebackers that are all, top 100 guys. So it should be attractive, but, we've seen, I think, not just lack of development, but also regression, from certain guys. I think about a guy like, Francisco, Manoa coming in, right? He looked fantastic last year, right? He was flying around, making plays, coming downhill. This year, not so much. So it just, like I said, the wheels fell off. Players, they weren't developing, or they were regressing.
Who got better? Who in our defense got better than they were last year? Like, literally go down the line. Jaden Harris, the departed Jaden Harris. I don't know where he's going to go, but I bet you he has a hell of a lot better season next year than he did this year. Hard not to, admittedly, but regressed. Mish Powell was a force for Washington and was a problem for us. Darryl Porter was at one time a lockdown cornerback, and this year he was there. Like OJ Frederick is it. OJ came in as like a guy that people were like raving about. Like, no, this guy's legit. I think he just stayed legit.
He had probably one true freshman type game, against Syracuse, which is expected.
At the end of the season, not surprisingly.
How many times have we had this conversation about other guys? Oh, they come in as a true freshman, they flash or they produce, and it's like, okay, this guy's going to be a core guy, and then 3 years later, we're like, if he transfers, it's okay, whatever, like not a big loss. So, like I was saying, but on paper, right, OJ was a freshman All-American, I believe. That's a pretty good start at, one corner spot. But yeah, I mean, we can go through, guy by guy, but I can't think of one guy that got better, right? That said, hey,
of course, Wes. We're going into year 4, Wes.
Maybe the same. I don't know. Not better. And then Ruben Bain, obviously being the elephant in the room of the guy who, freshman year was as good as you could find in the country. Then this year, obviously injuries too, getting over the injuries, sure, but fits into the same pattern as everyone else. So,
I think with Bain more than anybody else is like just didn't know how to use him, and they didn't know how to teach him the right things to do. And someone made a great comment before, Anthony Burke. Teaching people based upon system, and if the system is bad, then how are you going to teach them how to do what they're supposed to do? I feel like that's where we were. That's a great point, specifically as it relates to Ruben Bain as well, that we didn't know how to get him to be where he needed to be because we didn't know what the hell we were trying to do. So the coaches probably didn't know what the hell they were trying to do.
I mean, think about, back, was it 2016, right? The first year of Manny Diaz coming off of, Coach No D, in that Al Golden system, right? All those defensive linemen, all of a sudden looked a hell of a lot better because they were, put in a system. It wasn't a great system. We can have that argument, but it was an attacking, aggressive system. And you saw guys like Chad Thomas and RJ McIntosh and, Kendrick Norton, all of a sudden just start looking like guys, right? So instead of playing patty cake on that D line. So, we've seen it with Bain. We know it's there, right? We know that essentially, right, all-American type potential is there. And again, he should be, pretty big selling point, for when, Mario's, having these interviews. It's just a matter of finding the right guy, and, will that guy have the autonomy to, hire his coaches, kind of do what he needs to do on defense to fix it and, not waste another season.
And optimistic at the fact that we have, he go. I mean, jokingly, that actually wouldn't be terrible. Bain sold up 280, got slow off the ball. He got bigger because again, they were like, no, we're gonna play you. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. The whole Ruben Bain to defensive tackle thing, which started when he was in school, still in high school, where they're like, maybe he'll be a D tackle down the line. When he was as good of an edge player as there was in the country, maybe like, not going to be like hyperbolic here, but in the past couple decades of South Florida football, as good of an edge player as there's been. And they were like, let's swell this kid up and put him at D tackle. It started then, and it's been frustrating. I don't know. But
he should be lined up over the right tackle every single snap, where he can either use his explosiveness and speed or his power, and just dominate one side of the line. And I feel like that's where he was wreaking havoc the most as a true freshman, was lined up over the right tackle.
DC Bill for defensive coordinator. But you know what? As the weeks come on,
We're not splitting the atom here. So we're not splitting the atom.
Let's go be aggressive. Make plays. We won. I mean, how many championships we win just playing cover 2? A line of a 2. I don't know.
So somewhere Randy Shannon is getting very excited with that cover 2 talk.
Old school. But yeah, so we'll see. And to all of us, Richard, but with sense, I should say. So not Guidry, so he's gone. That's all out of the window. And obviously, we know what happened in the Pop-Tart Bowl. We lost a bunch of grown men, ate a pastry that was murdered live on television. Blah, blah, blah. But the only important talking point I think that came from the game, at least in my opinion, and it brought something out of me. I said to you the other day, Bill, back in the origins of the internet, a good 2 decades ago, in my younger days, back when you can go on a message board and just wreak havoc and just piss people off for as long as you wanted before they started trying to find out who you were. They were just happy to argue with this random avatar on the other side. I was at my best, I think, getting into arguments about football and being petty about it. But you saw some of the stuff that came out about Cam Ward after he played the first half of the Pop-Tart Bowl and came out, and you saw people throwing words out like selfish, loser mentality, quitter, all these things. And I've never been as mad as I was seeing some of the comments that came out from professional journalists about this stuff. Emmanuel Acho, I don't know if you guys, nobody follows him because why would you? But his stuff pops up because he works for Fox or something. Came out and was like, oh, he's a quitter. He did this whole thing on his show, blah, blah, blah. And Cam's dad had to correct him. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Then afterwards, he's like, oh, it's the fault of the head coach to not tell me what was going on. What the hell? No, anyone with logical sense knew what was happening. Everybody knew he didn't take himself out of the game at halftime. Was like, all right, I'm done here. And just walking on the sideline, roll his helmet to the fans and be like, all right, nice to meet you guys. Everybody knew what was happening. Everybody knows the Pop-Tart Bowl doesn't matter, right? They let his team down. As Richard said, let his team down. He dragged those guys, dragged them to double-digit wins. Without Cam, we win how many? Starting to pop, we're at what? 6? 5?
4 to 5.
Right?
With this defense?
With his defense, Cam drag on his shoulders had some. Baby carried a couple and had the rest of them in off the tied to his feet. 5 to 6 wins without Cam, double digits with Cam. They're going to be mad at him in the locker room for sitting out that second half of the Pop-Tart Bowl against an Iowa State team whose only other reason for being there is because they too failed in a must-win game. We're going to care about that? No Canes fan cares about that and how mad these people got for us. Crazy. Insanity. I could not care less about Cam doing that. Cam should absolutely 100% not have played in that game. Should not have played. It is a waste of time. As no offense, I love bowl games when they were great, when they're important too. Bowl games don't matter anymore. So it's a total waste of time for him to even have suited up in that game.
A lot of it is the culture in which we live in now, where everybody has to have an opinion regardless of whatever the facts are, and a lot of times they don't even know what the facts are before kind of just spewing, trying to get the clicks and the views. Yeah, I could come on here and be like, hey, I'm donating $1 million to the orphans of the country. And someone would be like, well, why aren't you donating $2 million to the orphans? That's just the culture we live in. And at first I was a little confused, right? When I saw kind of Emory jump in, I think I texted like it's Emory time. Then it kind of everything clicked. But if you think about it, I take all the emotion out of it. It was probably the best thing that could have happened in terms of not necessarily the outcome, but you get Cam Ward, he does his thing for a half. Obviously the defense sucks. If the defense didn't suck, we'd be up by a couple scores, we win the game, no one gives a shit. However, right, Cam does his thing, it's a close game, whatever, but we got to look at the future, right? We got to evaluate a quarterback that we really couldn't evaluate during the season because of our shitty defense. So he wasn't able to get all those reps. So you put him in essentially what is a meaningless bowl game. And you saw what you saw. Now I think you need to take other steps, maybe, bring in some more competition, whatever. But in terms of just all the commentary, it's just, to me, it's just, nonsense. I know you were, battling people on the internet for like days, weeks, probably this will be going into August.
I'll never stop. I'm still on it because now that Josh Allen said he's only playing like a snap, I'm like back into full go mode. But real quick on this point to your boy Kane, like I am also like for the same reason that John said, I was happy to see him put the uniform on because I love watching that guy play quarterback for Miami. I personally, as a fan of the team, enjoy watching him play more than I think I care about winning the Pop-Tart Bowl. I just like to watch him and be like, this dude is transcendent. And he was as good as he's ever been in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Right. So
that touchdown to Jacoby George where I think it was like an RPO right at the goal line. He kind of just floated it to the back. No one in the conference can make that throw.
No.
Make that mid-throw decision, be like, oh no, covered, boom, good. Just an amazing player. I guess 30 minutes is better than no minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes is better than nothing. Like personally, glad he played. He shouldn't have played because go get your money, Cam. Go get your money. Don't mess up your money. But we would have absolutely lost that game by 50 points, and then everyone would have been the whole thing. He was like, you should have just sat out. Like, man, our best quarterback in 20 years. Throwing the run to JoJo. I mean, our best quarterback, that was beauty. Our best quarterback since, I don't know.
This was the best quarterback season ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Our best individual quarterback season ever.
The trophies didn't pile up, but that is in no way, on Cam in any way. But I think we did that, we were doing that game right before the season. We were kind of ranking like where Cam would be. And, you and Steve-O put Stephen Morris's season, ahead of him. I was like, we're going to be talking about this guy having the greatest single season. And I think not only did he do that, I think he exceeded anyone's expectations from the time that, we had got him. And he would probably be talked about even higher if the defense could just get like one or two extra stops a game because then we'd be undefeated.
We lost 2 games and each of the games we lost were winnable games. Like if we were going into the playoffs undefeated, how would the opinion have been? Like, would he won the Heisman? No, because I think the hype had already pushed so far in that direction. Even when we were undefeated, people didn't really seem to care because they wanted this other thing. They just honestly never gave Cam the respect he deserved nationally. Like even still today, people are out there. Like some Giants fan on Twitter was like, "Oh, I'm glad the Giants lost, so we don't get Cam Ward." Or Giants won. I mean, you moron! What a stupid idiot this guy is. Like it's just absurd stuff. But so I think the opinion was always against him for whatever reason. Now why that is, I don't know. There's a million reasons why, but this is as good of he was the best quarterback in the country by, I think, a margin. Quinn Ewers wasn't that good. Carson Beck looked like garbage. Drew Aller came on at different parts, but still was Drew Aller a lot of it. Shedeur Sanders is a fine player, but he's not a great quarterback. He's a nice player, right? He's not Cam Ward. Nobody, I wouldn't trade Cam Ward for a soul across the country this year, personally.
Could you imagine what Cam Ward could do throwing to Travis Hunter?
Yeah,
or even not to rile up the chat again, but Cam Ward throwing to Jeremiah Smith, and that's not even knocking our receivers, but just like a transcendent wide receiver athlete
out there. Okay, people that know spread the next not playing, very true. Or other guys who didn't play in the second half along with Cam because it's the Pop-Tart Bowl, right? Cam changed the whole image. They were like, yeah, it's a culture ruiner. He is our culture. He set the culture.
Yeah, wait till next year for anyone like complaining that things are going to get a lot worse in that quarterback room.
Yeah, I don't know what the people are thinking of, but any Miami fan that called him a traitor, you are an absolute moron. 100% mine. I'm glad that it hasn't popped up in the chat yet. And if you're too afraid to say it in the chat because of how negative we're being towards your opinion, that's a good idea. You should stay quiet because it's stupid to think that. But the Canes fan you with this idea, like, would you start Cam on a 2001 team over Dorsey? I mean, if you just take the 2001 team and you have a full season of Cam and a full season of Ken Dorsey, do I think that they're suddenly not the greatest team of all time? No, they're still the greatest team of all time, for sure. Do I think Andre may have a little bit more yards and touchdowns? I think it's very possible. It's very possible.
Ken Dorsey is probably like one of, if not, the most favorite player for a lot of people. But just from he's smart, right? Just kind of manage that team. He's exactly what that team needed. But if you put Cam on that team, that is Boston College a close game? Probably not. Maybe we want Ken Dorsey there because then we got that super cool knee interception, Ed Reed return for a touchdown. But I think you put the greatest quarterback of in the program's history on the greatest team in the program history, and you're making magic here.
Yeah, it will work out well. It's a great point by Shaboy. Didn't have like the big ticket game that quarterbacks usually have to kind of hang their hat on. But I mean, that's just as much the fault of the national media just being so SEC focused or Big Ten focused. Top 5 pick, OG Prime. I may have played Jeremiah Smith off the bench if we would have gotten him. It's pretty funny, but maybe so. People calling Cam a traitor, not Jeremiah Smith. I don't think Jeremiah Smith is a traitor, but people calling Cam one is so absurd that I'm willing to agree with you there, Charles. I'll give you that one. Thank you, Roger. Galaxy King, a lot of the rivals speaking negative. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Great point. Oh, Bill, why you turn your back on us? LD money doesn't pay you to for this dribble. Don't worry, he doesn't pay us. We do this for fun. How about that, Bill? Beat it.
That's the biggest irony ever. Is that name?
Oh, here we go. Here's a moron. It's Bill again. I hope he doesn't pay you to gur this dribble. Ward wasn't a traitor. He was selfish. Full stop. Oh, big talk. Oh my God, so selfish. Playing all those snaps for us all season long, dominating like he did. So selfish to not play the second half of the Pop-Tart Bowl. So selfish. My goodness. Tisk Cam Ward being the greatest quarterback in program history and not playing the second half of the Pop-Tart Bowl. He's getting his money's worth. Yeah, he got a lot of money for it. He's gonna be a top 5 pick because of it. I'm bringing that negativity to the table. Bill can't help himself. Anyway, that's the second time we don't deserve to get paid is cold-blooded.
I had to throw it in there, get you fired up. I finally learned how to communicate in the chat.
There we go. Just had a little second account on the phone. I hope Cam doesn't end up in Cleveland. I mean, there's a lot of places I hope he doesn't end up. It's just not. And I'm speaking as a Jets fan. I'm terrified what happens if he gets to the Jets. I'll be excited, but also I'll feel really bad for the man.
At least I guess if he goes to the Giants, at least he has neighbors.
Yeah, just feed him. It's a team sport. Great point. Anyway. Wankers.
Oh, British?
No. Well, he's got it appears to be like a Guinness or something there. Could be Irish.
I thought it was a picture of a trash can.
Anyway. Oh, spontaneous Oracle. Otherwise, Emery is the best option coming from spontaneous Oracle. I guess that Oracle bit isn't working too hard. Hopefully your next spontaneous good vision will come at some point. It hasn't happened in a while, I suppose. That's the other part of the puzzle too, where Emory Williams. We got to see Emory a little bit and get a feel for how that works. I think it became pretty clear from that second half that, I'm not going to bash the kid. He's like a good dude. People, great attitude, all that kind of stuff. But they didn't trust him, right?
I think that was probably the most concerning part of that essentially the entire second half was you were just kind of waiting, like, hey, what are they going to do? Let's see it, and it just never happened. What was didn't he only throw the ball like 6 times or something? If I'm remembering, I don't have the game log pulled up here, but it was a very low amount. I would have figured if we're trying to, evaluate, cut it loose. If the mistakes are made, That's perfectly okay. Again, it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. In the grand scheme of things, after 24 hours, no one really cares if you won or lost. That everyone's already looking towards the portal next year, coaching changes, all that. So I think that was more concerning for me than what I actually saw, was that they didn't actually let him go out there and just sling it.
Yeah, this is a defense where, we saw the best version of this offense came with a quarterback who was able to do different things, to kind of like work on his own schedule, to make plays that other guys can't make. Not everyone is going to be Cam Ward, right? No one's going to be Cam Ward based upon what we saw, but you need a guy with a skill set that can make some things happen when stuff's not automatically popping up. I don't believe they thought Emory could do that. And the idea that Emory wasn't prepared, he was frustrated by the plays they were given. They're going to give him plays that they think he can run. They're not going to give. He's been in practice all year long. It's not his first time running these plays. Like, they've seen him, and there's always that thing, like, we don't see the guys in practice, and there's a lot of times where I think that's, yeah, sure, but then we see the guys in the game, they could play a little bit. But I don't think that they thought Emory could run the offense the way that he needed to, because they just didn't even give him a chance to. Even when we were in a position where we needed to call those kinds of plays, they still didn't. That says a lot. It says a lot to me. It wasn't Judd, his first year on the program. Luke didn't show up like right after graduation and step into a uniform. Like, this guy's been here.
Yeah,
they didn't give him a shot.
It seemed like they were treating him as, that true freshman. It was almost like his first start was the Clemson game, right? We ended up winning that one, but you could tell the whole game it was just like, okay, true freshman, just don't make mistakes. But yeah, we're in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. We had a lead, right? Go out there and just see what you got. You had what do you have? 15 practices for bowl games, I believe, or around that number. What were we doing? We knew what Cam was doing, right? That wasn't he didn't just check out in the second half to everyone's surprise. Exactly. That was a planned event.
Everybody knew the deal. Everybody knew Emory was going to be out there. Like, I'm sure, like, just like you script the start of a game, you script your plays. Like, they probably had a script for Emory, and their script for Emory was limited.
Hand it to Martinez. That was the script.
Feed the rock. Feed him. But I don't know. But that to me said a lot about what the plan is. And do I think that what are we going to do as far as the future of quarterback? I think that a portal is a guarantee. How good is that portal going to be? I'm not sure. Hopefully it's a guy that can come in and compete at a higher level. I'm not sure. Look at Bill. We're swinging to the other side. D2, D3 quarterback, D1 too fast for him. I think D1 could work. But it's like the part of it too, where like nobody develops quarterbacks anymore. I don't think the system works for him. I don't think that he's been developed enough. I don't think that it would click even if he was the starter for a consistent piece of time. Could he go somewhere else and have it work? Sure. In a different kind of system. Just like I think there's a reason why they didn't want Mendoza. Like, I think there's a reason why they don't like some guys. Like, they just don't think the system would work for him. I don't feel like they believe the system is there. I don't know.
Yeah. Even like as a recruit, like, he didn't strike me as like an air raid type quarterback. And again, he's young, right? It's only, year 2. I understand, he was banged up, right? I believe he was out for spring. But again, it was just a very, very poor look, that entire second half. And again, now we're in a position, do we have to go get a portal quarterback? Yeah. Right. I don't think you can roll into next year, right, with just Emory, Judd, and, Luke Nickel as a true freshman. We think very highly of Luke Nickel, but as a true freshman coming in,
it's not likely. Based upon everything we know about quarterback play at Division I, high D1 level, it's not likely.
And then, maybe a guy like Quinn Ewers ends up going in the portal, and you spend big to get him. Is he worth? I know the $6 million was thrown out there. I don't believe that to be accurate in any sense, but that's the type of quarterback you would need to get for this team to be competitive in the way we want to be competitive next year, assuming the defense takes a pretty significant step forward. If they don't, then it doesn't matter what happens at quarterback, as we saw this year.
Like I saw Zevi Eckhouse thrown out there. I mean, he's just as much of a risk as anybody. Like, you'd hope that it would be good. And, he played well in the bowl game and all that, but still not a guy with a ton of starting experience. Like Bill said, if it's not a Quinn Ewers, and you could go out there like Quinn Ewers sucks. Quinn Ewers, even with you believing Quinn Ewers makes a lot of bad plays, he's still a top 10 quarterback in the country, right? The number of great quarterbacks in college football is so far lesser than it has ever been because of the way that teams don't develop quarterbacks anymore. They just kind of jump to another team, try to have one great season with like a bare bones playbook, and then like, look, I'm a draft pick, and then hope the NFL can figure it out. There aren't a lot of great quarterbacks in college football. He's a top 10 guy. He'd be the guy that we would say, all right, what the hell? Let's go out there, sling the ball around, see if it works. But a lot of these other guys that are thrown out there are not going to do what we needed to do.
I mean, you look at even just the majority of the quarterbacks in the playoffs now are transfers, right? Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers was a transfer. I'm not sure about Arizona State's quarterback.
Transfer. Michigan State transfer.
Riley Leonard transfer. Carson Beck was, homegrown for Georgia. But they also had, they took Jaden Rashad in the portal.
Yeah, just Beck and Aller are the only two guys, right?
So, I mean, at least for a program like us, it almost makes sense to kind of get that mid to lower 4-star guy. And then, if they don't develop what you need to, then you spend big in the portal for a proven guy, right? I think we would probably have to pay, extra, right? Oh, I don't want to call it the suck tax because we didn't necessarily suck, but it's very hard to get 5-star quarterbacks to commit to you. Those guys typically go to those same couple of schools. So I think the portal is where it's at, because again, it's just very hard to develop a quarterback for whatever reason these days. All the time it's just easier to go to the portal and just get a proven guy, right? You have the money, you already have the the talent around him, the infrastructure, right? We do too. We should be, attractive, right? With the offensive line, the running back room, potential through the roof at wide receiver. It's there. But I think we kind of dragged our toes a little bit and, may have passed on some guys that could have been an upgrade for, kind of what we saw in that second half.
Mm-hmm. Gronowski is the guy we're talking about here. I don't know if he's solidified it yet, but the talk is he's going to Washington State. The fact that the Washington State guy left, because he's going to follow his coach over there, more likely than not, if not leave and go pro. But and Galaxy King, this is one of those like deeper like state of college football questions that you could probably spend hours on just this concept alone. But like that's the idea. That's the question, right? Like, why recruit the position if you're just going to go out and get people? Which is,
you need backups and third stringers.
That's kind of what it is, right? Like, the guys that you recruit are going to be your backups unless something crazy happens. Like, even with Carson Beck, when Carson Beck started for Georgia, a lot of people were like, last year, a lot of people were like, really? You're going to go with him? You're not going to go get somebody? Like, that's how it is. That's just where we are. And then you'll develop a guy for a couple of years and maybe he'll go somewhere else, or like you'll get stuff like this where Levitt had this awesome season with Arizona State, and then now maybe he'll leave again because Scatterboo's gone and they're not going to be as good. So maybe, portal is quarterbacks now. That's just the way it's going to be.
I mean, you don't really know what you have at quarterback until they play games, and what coach really wants to risk being put on the hot seat for playing a quarterback that you don't really know what's going to happen versus a guy you go to the portal and you get more of a sure thing. Kind of the exception to that is, right, you're already on the hot seat, aka Billy Napier, and you make that choice because it could potentially save your job. And
right.
DJ Lagway, great physical talent, stats really weren't that great. Made some really bad throws, but that essentially gave Florida life, and they dumped all the money in to the NIL and whatever. So he's going to get fired next year anyway. I don't see them doing much of anything. Even if DJ Lagway improves, but I think just long term, I think you kind of stick to what if you can't get the Dylan Rayolas of the world, you try and get some developmental guys that will at least be willing to stay a couple years to see if they can win it, and then you go to the portal. So that's just the way it is now. It's a different world. It's a different game.
I mean, just think about like the fact that Arch Manning has stayed for 2 years at Texas, and everyone is like, "Oh my God, I can't believe what a miracle he stayed the backup for 2 seasons." Like starting as a redshirt sophomore used to be like the standard, if not like early, and now we're like, "Oh my God."
He's going to push out a top 10 college quarterback. Whether it Ewers goes to the pros or hits the portal, he's being pushed out in some way. He's not going to be at Texas next year.
You recruit Coral because you never know if you might find that gem. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's hard to find that quarterback gem nowadays because guys don't stay and develop. Guy, if you have a backup quarterback that's not seeing time and he's like, I can go play somewhere else, he'll leave. I mean, look at what's his face. Levitt. We're just talking about Levitt leaving Michigan State. He played a couple games for them. He was like, I can go be a starter somewhere else, and he left. And he went to go start. And he just made the playoffs. I mean, you could probably go like Quinn Ewers left after a year, got the big bag from Ohio State, left, went to go somewhere else. Riley Leonard developed by Duke just to leave, go somewhere else. Will Howard developed by Kansas State. All right, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Even Kyle McCord gets pushed out of Ohio State because they blamed him for, what they go 11-1 or 10-2 that year. I don't. It's just the way it is. Like a guy like even just switching positions like Isaiah Horton leaves, and we're gonna complain about it because we want him here, but it's just how it is now. You're gonna lose guys you don't want to lose. Even the Alabamas and the Georgias, they're gonna lose guys that they don't want to lose too.
Yeah, the Washington State coach came out and said, like, we're a quarterback development factory. Like, he basically was trying to recruit quarterbacks to come to him, be like, hey, do we know how to coach quarterbacks up so that you can go to another school? So it was like some crazy world, man. It's a crazy world of this bit. Now, look, that's a great point from Toby. You get South Carolina bringing in a quarterback like Aaron Noland. Now, people are talking about Sellers. Like, well, Sellers is going to be out. Maybe. Or maybe like Aaron Noland might sit a year, but automatically there's going to be people talking to Sellers now. Someone's going to put a dollar amount on Lenore Sellers that Lenore Sellers might really like, and he's gone. When he goes, where he's that quarterback that's at another school is going to be like, yeah. But no, Arch isn't transferring. We're saying Quinn's going to transfer. Yeah, no, Arch is not going anywhere. If Arch was going to leave, he would have left. The Arch plan has been set in stone for when he got there. Arch probably told them, like, I got 2 years on the bench, and then, all right, let's do this thing, because they figured Quinn would be doing something more than Quinn did this year. But I don't know. It's a crazy world, man. It's a crazy world. It's interesting, but it's not as fun as it used to be. It's just not. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel the same. I know you guys that are old out there understand exactly what I'm talking about, but.
Yeah, I think you said it the best. I think when we were texting, maybe after the bowl game or a couple days, like every year is going to be drastically different. Just because you're good one year doesn't mean you're going to have guys leave, guys come in, whatever. But it's a year-to-year thing. There's no longer like a 2 to 3 year building process. You got an alarm? Where are you going?
Garbage alarm.
I took mine out. Mine's set for 7.
It's tough. But yeah, like you said, Bill, that's the idea now. Just because you could win 10 games one year, it doesn't mean a damn thing about next year. It doesn't mean a damn thing, because you might have a whole roster full of guys that are on their way out or thinking about being out or go to the pros. I mean, look at Ohio State right now. Ohio State right now they went through their roster during the game, and it was like how long each starter has been on at Ohio State, right? I go through their whole defensive roster because they're all going to the draft next year. Lathan Ransom, I think it's his 5th year. Caleb Downs, his 2nd year as a transfer. Hankins, I think, is their slot guy. He's been there 4 years. Benison is in his second year as a transfer. Other side is Denzel Burke, 4 years. The two ends, 4 years. Tyleik Williams, 5 years. The other tackle, 4 years. The linebackers, 3 and 4 years. Like, guys been around forever. But most of those guys are going to go in the draft. When they go in the draft, how's Ohio State going to reload? I don't know.
Here's kind of a big picture question, right? With this new playoff year to year. So Oregon goes undefeated. They win the Big Ten championship. They get a bye. They get blown out in the only playoff game. Is Oregon like looking at themselves as a failure right now because you didn't advance in the playoffs? Like,
yeah, because next year who could be garbage? Who's their quarterback next year?
Dante Moore.
Do we know what he is? He already kind of crashed out at a different school, right? Kind of.
Yeah, but it's just
Will Stein is going to make him a great quarterback. Will Stein didn't make Dylan Gabriel a great quarterback. Dylan Gabriel's been a quarterback for 15 years, right? Like Dan Lanning's going to make him a great quarterback. I don't know. Bo Nix was an 18-year starter. Dylan Gabriel was a 17-year starter, and now they get this new kid.
Right. And I think Oregon has kind of figured it out. Just go get, I know they're going to transition to Dante Moore, but you just go get like those super experienced guys, especially if you have all this talent around them, and you're going to win a lot of games every year.
Yeah. I got one more here. I don't want to miss this too. Ian Coleman said, Chris, would you take Milroe? Yes. But like you have to, right? Because he's a real starting quarterback in college football. And as bad as he was at times, he's a top, 15, 20 quarterback in college football. Easy. Like you have to. Even if you don't love Jalen Milroe, even if Jalen Milroe is 1/100th of the player Cam Ward is, like he's better than Emory. You could start him. You could have him run 15 times a game and be a dangerous player that way. You're not going to be worried about him not being able to make stuff happen.
You're not going 6-6 with Milroe.
No, you'll win. You could win.
Other quarterbacks, it's there. It's very, very possible.
I
think we got breaking news. Isaiah Thomas seems to be transferring.
It's a rough. I mean, that's part of the deal. That's part of the deal now.
Yeah. Stayed a year. I guess didn't see a path or didn't maybe he's tied to Guidry. I know he was banged up though, right? I think he has a recruit coming in. So yeah, it's just it's another spot to fill.
Mm-hmm. We're bringing in dudes, we're losing dudes. That's the nature of the portal season, gentlemen. Nature of portal season. But speaking of portal season, great job by the chat today. I really appreciate you guys jumping in, being aggressive. I like, and also like if you think what we're saying is stupid, please say it. Might I respond with calling you names? Sure, that's part of it. If you call me names, I will put the comment up 100%. I enjoy that. If you call Bill names, I will absolutely put the comment up. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of stuff that we'll see how it all shakes out. But I mean, I think we're at the point now where we are looking at it off season of really interesting moves that need to be made. A lot of players, I think, that are going to be on this roster next year are not still on the roster. A lot of guys that are not going to be Hurricanes come next season currently have a spot in the locker room. So it's going to be an interesting couple weeks, then turns into a couple months, and then interesting August, and then a very interesting season depending on who the signal caller is. Anyway. Wait, mine's worse or better? Bill's is horrible or mine's horrible? Kirk? Mine's nice. I like mine. Like a real deal microphone. Bill uses like his headphone mic.
I ditched the headphones. I just use my straight laptop one.
Thank you, your boy Kane. I appreciate you. Oh, Bill's is better? Do I sound bad?
He's seeming like normal to me.
Well, sorry, Kirk. You must have missed Bill's time when he had that air conditioning sit right next to his face. Those are the good old days. Anyway, but sorry, Kirk. I'll try to make this better. See, that's a constructive criticism we're looking for, Kirk. That's what I'm talking about, my guy. That's what we want. Throw a couple of Bill jokes in there too.
With all the money we're getting paid from D Money, Chris can go buy himself a new microphone now.
He actually did say that if we needed a microphone or something, he would cover us. So maybe I'll have to send an email over to D-Money.
Did he really? Because I'll take one.
Get that email ready to go. I'm going to put Kirk's comments in there too.
I have to reread the contract.
Hey, Kirk, just real quick, throw something in the chat that says both of our microphones are garbage. Then we could just screenshot that and send it over to D-Money. Anyway, but that'll do it for us, guys. Thank you guys so much. Who do we want as DC? I don't know, man. I feel like personally, I feel like there are names that I would consider to be impossible names because they're attached to other schools that might be willing to make a move that I don't know about. So I don't think that there's a guy right now where I'm like, oh yeah, for sure.
I think the one guy that hasn't been mentioned, and there may be a reason why, because I know he's at USC and it's just a shit show over there. But D'Anton Lynn, he did great things at UCLA, with not a lot of high end talent. So that would be my guy. Just from afar. Obviously, I don't know much. I don't really care about USC anymore. But I feel like he may be looking to get out of a bad situation. You come here, you fix it 2 years, you're a head coach somewhere.
Yeah. That's the positive, right? Clint Hurd, a couple mentions. I know that some very interesting personalities on Twitter were talking about Clint Hurd as a DC. Jim Leonard, Mel Tucker. I mean, I think there's some guys. I believe in my soul that we're going to get a guy that people are going to be excited about. I know a couple years ago that we talked about Derek Mason as a possibility. I saw his name get mentioned there before. Like, I like the idea of it. I think Steve-O at the time was not fond of it at all because he ran like a bit of a different scheme. I know he's like a more 3-4 guy. At least he was back in the day. There are some names out there that I'd be very happy with. Hopefully by next week we have a clearer picture of who like our top targets are. And again, hopefully it's not like one notch too far, you Canes fan. I almost clicked it. It's one notch too far.
Kirk, set you Canes fan you straight.
Bobby Pruitt. No Mel Tucker. Harrison. We'll see. But I'm optimistic, guys. Try to stay as optimistic as possible.
Do you think we have one by next show? So next Wednesday at 9:00 for those that have joined watching for the first time.
Like as much as pessimistic as I am about the ability to hire coaches on short notice for Mario, like it feels like Mario likes to let this thing play out for quite a while.
Was it short notice? He should have known for like 3 months.
Should have known. I don't think that's how he operates, honestly. I would say no. We do not have a defensive coordinator by next week, but it's very possible we will have them by the 14th, or the 15th, whatever. The second show after that. Galaxy will have one in March. That's the over under. Like, do we have one by the July 4th holiday? Gonna get that text. It's gonna drop right in the middle of the fireworks show. It's gonna be like the smoke coming out of the Vatican. Like Miami has a DC. Lost big, but I go for Tosh. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting handed to you after a big layoff. That's as much Dan Lanning as anybody, and like some of the other names. Like some of these schools, like you get annihilated by a team after a big layoff. Kind of is what it is. I don't know. We've certainly seen that side of it too, but just got caught off guard. A new DC or new quarterback first.
DC.
Shoot.
I would say DC. So there's not a quarterback. I think the only real possibility is yours, and he's going to play in 8 or 9 days. Then depending on if they win or lose, maybe a couple days after that. Putting a lot of thought into this. It's not that hard of a question.
I'm trying to get like a timeline of like when exactly is the play. Like I know the playoff is officially done the divisional week, right? I feel like we'll have a new DC by like legitimately the 14th is possible by the end of January. I absolutely think it's going to happen. A new quarterback. I don't know. Maybe depends on when some of these teams lose, right? Because that's when they get their extended portal entry. I'm gonna say quarterback first.
Should I write that down on the big prediction
Yeah,
sheet?
sure.
Because I still have it
What the
there.
hell?
I'm totally gonna forget, but all right.
Hurt,
Chris.
Tucker, Pruitt. I think Mel Tucker is the name that I would be the most intrigued by, because I think he's of that ilk of he needs the rehab, the coaching rehab, and I don't know, and they can't go to Bama anymore. This might be it. Johnny Green.
Oh, Johnny Green popping in. Haven't seen you in a while.
Happy New Year's, Johnny Green. That's my bet. I'm gonna go DC first. Or I'm gonna go quarterback first, but I'm gonna say if Mel Tucker seems like a name that I'd be, because I know there was a question in there too, like best possible. I mean, he'd be an elite defensive coordinator to bring in. Be an elite coordinator to bring in. Tennessee guy, Tim Banks, I know is a name that's interesting too. I know they got walloped, but a lot of people getting walloped by this Ohio State team right now. Pat Fitzgerald, that'd be interesting. Fair point. Maybe wouldn't have to mess around with some of the girls in the office though. If they're just enough women in general in the area, you go out there in the middle of nowhere in Colorado, it's looking dreary, looking bleak out there for them. Michigan State, East Lansing, not too sure. Toby solid on Levitt, man. I hope so. I would take it. All right, well, guys, that'll do it for us. We appreciate you guys tuning in here on a Wednesday night to watch us. But we have been doing it for many, many years, so I appreciate you guys that saw us for the first time. But before we get out of here, usually we're joined by a guy named Steve-O who's down there, who's a very smart football guy. So on these shows, when Steve-O's on here, we just try to pretend it like we know what we're talking about, especially Bill. So, Bill, before we get out of here, final thoughts for the people.
Final thoughts. This is a topic we haven't really touched on, but free my boy Xavier Lucas. Let him go into the portal, Wisconsin, because what you're doing is absolutely scummy, and that's all I'm going to say.
It's not surprising. I mean, not surprising at all that Wisconsin would do something like that. Not surprising. They've done some other sketchy stuff over the years too. But anyway, that'll do it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to tune in to all the great stuff at CanesInSight. Like normally you see D Money and Pete. I know some people are there. We're looking for us over there. Happy New Year, guys. But they'll be back tomorrow and every other day. They're always doing shows. It's just Wednesdays for us. We come in because of other stuff. And again, not getting paid all kinds of money. So we just do the one just for fun, for the love of the shows, guys, for the love of the shows. Anyways, we'll be out there like moving furniture around or whatever it is that a bunch of guys that have done in the past. But that's what I would for Bill. I'm Chris. Thank you guys for joining in. Thanks you guys for watching the show and participating so much in the chat tonight. Really appreciate you. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again next week. Hopefully with a new defensive coordinator, maybe with a new quarterback. We'll see how it all transpires right here on 3 Live Canes. Have a good night.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Urban's got it. Urban's free. Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, and he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big games.